County 911.
Yes, I need some help over here at the Hustle Mart. The cook over here, it looks like he's been shot. Yeah, he's bleeding. There's blood all over the floor.
Okay. Is he completely alert? Is he responding at all?
No, he's just moaning. There's two of them. There's two of them. One of them they shot. Oh, there's two people. There's two.
When Farmville police responded to the 911 call at the Hustle Mart convenience store, officers walked into one of the most gruesome crime scenes they had ever witnessed. As they entered the store, they found bloody footprints leading to the exit. Just outside of the cash register area was a young male victim, lying face down in a pool of blood with a bullet hole in the back of his head. He was clearly deceased. Behind the front counter were two more young men lying face down on the floor, each with a bullet in the head. They were in critical condition and were immediately rushed to a hospital. Homicide detectives from the Pitt County Sheriff's Office were called in and immediately started processing the crime scene. On the floor were 3 spent 9mm shell casings. Cash was scattered throughout the store, while the cash register and the safe were both open and emptied, indicating that a robbery had probably taken place. Just outside the store, officers found some more cash on the floor, where the getaway car was likely parked. As detectives walked through the scene, they noticed cameras throughout the store covering every angle. The scene initially looked like a robbery had gone wrong, but as investigators reviewed the CCTV footage, they realized that it was actually much more sinister than that. Just before 10 p.m., the 3 store workers can be seen going about their business as usual. Behind the counter were victims 1 and 2. Victim 1 was 16-year-old Mokbel Mohammed, who was known as Sam. Sam was the son of the store owner, Mike, and was the quiet one of the bunch. At the time, he was a student at Farmville Central High School, located just 5 minutes from the store. Sitting next to him was 26-year-old Nabil Nasser, who was Sam's uncle and the younger brother of the store owner. Nabil lived in Queens, New York, where he ran his own business. He just arrived in Farmville that week to give his brother Mike some time off of work. Nabil was described as a joker who always found a way to make people laugh. In the back of the store was the third victim, 24-year-old Jaber Alawi, who was Mike's cousin. He worked full-time at the store to support his wife and kids and was mopping the floor while his cousins were closing the register. At exactly 9:58 p.m., Suspect 1 enters the store armed with a handgun that he aimed at Sam and Nabil, who immediately put their hands up. As the first suspect makes his way around the counter, a second suspect enters the store, followed by a third, both of which are also armed with handguns. Sam and Nabil now have 3 guns pointed at their faces and immediately surrender to the suspects. They put down the cash, get down on their knees, and put their hands over their heads. While this is taking place, Suspect 3 realizes there's someone else in the back of the store. He walks over to Jaber, makes him get down on his knees, and drags him to the front of the store. Suspect 1 cleans out the register and asks where the rest of the money is as he looks through the shelves. 16-year-old Sam keeps his head down while Nabil points the robber to the safe behind him. Suspect 1 looks back at the safe, then turns back, aims his gun at Sam, and fires a round into the back of his head, completely unprovoked. Nabil is then ordered to open the safe. Suspect 1 removes the cash, grabs a pack of cigarettes, and without hesitation, aims his gun at Jaber and fires a round in the back of his head. He then turns back and executes Nabil the same way. On his way out, he bends down to pick up some cash that he dropped on the floor, then exits the store. As detectives watched this unfold, they received a call informing them that Sam and Nabil were pronounced dead at the hospital. This is now a homicide investigation for a triple murder. What immediately struck officers was how senseless and unprovoked these murders were. All 3 victims immediately complied with the robbers' demands and handed over all of the money they had, yet they were all callously executed in such a reprehensible manner. The lead investigator on the case, Detective Shannon Stewart with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office, said, "In the 30-year career that I've had in law enforcement, surveillance footage of these 3 young men being executed is probably the most horrific thing that I've seen. This chilling footage made it clear to law enforcement that they had some cold-blooded killers on the loose that need to be taken off the street as soon as humanly possible." News of the triple murder spread quickly around Farmville, a small town of just a few thousand residents where everyone knew each other. Locals showed up to the store to express their support for the devastated family that they've known for years. while classmates of Sam's held a vigil for them. A funeral for the 3 young victims was held on April 3rd, less than 2 days after the murder, and hundreds of people from Farmville and surrounding towns attended the prayer at the local mosque. As a result of these murders, 9 children lost their fathers, and 2 of them were made orphans. Local residents were infuriated, knowing that there were 3 cold-blooded killers freely walking around in their town.
The death of 3 loved ones not only shattered hearts, but brought back horrid memories from 20 years ago. He says his uncle, Muhammad al-Mujahami, was living in Brooklyn, New York, working at a convenience store with his brother. He says one night a man came in and robbed the store. Similar to the Hustle Mart shooting, the robber fired shots at Muhammad, but missed. Instead, his brother was shot and killed.
He had to leave the state to kind of forget about the story, and he had chosen North Carolina thinking that he's going to have peace in here and get away from what had happened there. And it's so sad that same thing just happened again.
Tony says his uncle had so much love for his brother, he named his only son, 16-year-old Mokbel, or Sammy, after him. Sammy was one of the 3 employees killed on April 1st. We're told that the sheriff will be returning the store over to the family soon, but because the painful memories are so strong, Tony says his family may not even keep it.
We're currently thinking about selling the business and maybe moving out of Farmville.
Currently, the store remains the same way it looked the night of the shootings for a reason. Tony hopes these horrific images will be enough to convince a judge that the death penalty is needed in order for there to be justice.
Police were now working around the clock looking for anything that could lead them to the killers. Detectives replayed the footage over and over, looking closely, hoping to catch some more clues. It was clear from the video who was calling the shots. Suspect 1 was the first to enter the store and was apparently the one giving orders to the victims, as well as his accomplices. At one point, the bandana covering his face slips off just a little, giving detectives a glimpse of what he looks like, but it wasn't enough for a positive identification. He was wearing a plaid shirt and a distinctive hat. It was a red, white, and blue Montreal Expos baseball cap. The second suspect to enter the store was wearing black sweatpants and a black hoodie. When the first shot was fired, he was startled and jumped. He seemed scared and quickly left the store. The third suspect had on a black hoodie and red basketball shorts. He was the one who went and dragged Jabber to the front of the store. A clip of the suspects was released to the media asking the public to help identify them, and it wasn't long before tips came pouring in. On the same day the funeral took place, police received a call from the owner of Mart, another convenience store located in the middle of town. The owner tells police that he recognizes the suspects and believes that they were actually in his store just days before the robbery. Detectives quickly made their way over to the store and had the owner show them his CCTV footage from that day. Just after 6:30 p.m. on March 29th, a green Mazda pulls up to one of the gas pumps. A man exits the car and makes his way into the convenience store. As he enters the store, another man exits the car to pump gas. Another camera inside the store captures a better image of the first man. He's a black male with a red, white, and blue hat, the same hat the murder suspect wore at the Hustle Mart. A different camera inside the store gets a better look at the second man. He's wearing dreads and doesn't appear to match the description of any of the suspects from the robbery. Police now have a car and a face and are one step closer to catching the suspects. It wasn't long till police received another tip. A woman called the sheriff's office and sounded terrified. She tells police that she just saw a clip of the suspects on the news and immediately recognized the man in the plaid shirt. She said that he was in her house at that very moment and pleaded with the police to come and get him as soon as possible. This was a man who had absolutely no regard for human life and was armed with a deadly weapon. Within a matter of minutes, a tactical team was dispatched and surrounded the residence the woman called from. As soon as officers forced their way into the home, they spotted a man who quickly threw his gun to the floor and told officers, "I don't have a gun. I don't want to get shot." The man was cuffed and transported to the sheriff's office. The gun he threw down was a 9mm handgun and appeared to be the same one used in the murders. Police sent it in for ballistic testing to find out for certain. Captain Paula Dance with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office said, "I remember as they brought him into the building, I've never in my entire life looked a person in the eye and saw nothing. Nothing. No soul. Just a blank stare." The suspect was identified as 29-year-old Antoine Anthony. Antoine, who goes by his street name, Smurf, was a felon and had just been released from prison 2 months prior. Detectives sit him down in an interview room to get his side of the story.
Antoine, it's Detective Mitchell. I'm Detective Stewart. And, we got some stuff we want to talk to you about, okay? All right? You'll sign right there. That's just saying you know your rights. They've been explained to you.
Mom, I don't want to wait. I don't want to waive my rights to have a break, brother.
You don't want to waive it? Is that what you said?
No.
Okay. Do you want to talk to her?
I want to have an attorney, brother.
Antoine refuses to talk to police, but he was not free to go. He was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and was held in custody while detectives tracked down his accomplices and build their case. Word of Antoine's arrest spread quickly around the small town of Farmville, and people started to come forward to police. The first to come forward was Xavier Shamble. He tells detectives that he was the third suspect in the Hustle Mart robbery.
So why is it, why do you think you're here? Why do you think we can talk?
This is somebody was saying something.
What can you tell me about that?
I didn't shoot him. Okay.
He identifies Antoine as the shooter and gives detectives the name of the third suspect.
Who did the shooting? So, this is Smoke we're talking about. Who was the first one in the door? Smoke? All right, who went in second? Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
What now?
I don't know. It's right.
Once he realizes the gravity of the situation, Xavier starts to break down crying. He was later arrested and held in custody. Just a few hours later, the case takes another turn. Just before 11 p.m. that night, a woman brings her 14-year-old son to the sheriff's office to come clean about his involvement. Her son was identified as Raekwon Blunt, the second suspect who was visibly shaken after the first shot went off. Raekwon has some new information to share with detectives.
First shot you ran out here. Scared the hell out of you, didn't it? I can see it.
If you're so scared, why did you come back? Why? You could have gotten in the car. You could have run down the road. You didn't want to leave your buddies, did you?
Raekwon introduces a fourth suspect to the case. His description of the car they used matches the one captured on camera at the King's Mart gas pump. He tells detectives that he only knew the driver by the name of Wicked and says that he had dreadlocks, just like the unidentified man seen on the King's Mart surveillance footage. After putting together a photo lineup, officers were able to find out Wicked's real name. It was Willie Whitehead, a known gang member in the local area. Police quickly locate him and bring him in.
You know what happened the other night while we're here? What we're talking about? Yeah, of course I know what happened. It ain't on the news.
Whitehead denies any involvement in the robbery and tells detectives that he was with his girlfriend that night. Out of the blue, his girlfriend shows up at the sheriff's office and tells them that he was with her on the night of the murders. Police weren't convinced. Based on information from 14-year-old Raekwon, officers located the house that the suspects all went to after the robbery and arrived with a search warrant. In the driveway, police found the green Mazda that was seen at the King's Mart and a second car, a green Chrysler. Both cars were seized and thoroughly searched. Police found a Walmart receipt for 9mm ammo that was purchased just 2 days before the murders. Using the timestamps on the receipt, police were able to see who made the purchase. It was a woman, with 2 men standing right behind her. After the purchase was made, the men exited the store together, followed by the woman. The 2 men were none other than Willie Whitehead and Antoine Anthony. All the pieces were falling into place. A week after the suspects were all brought into custody, the last piece of the puzzle would come walking right into the sheriff's office. The girlfriend of Willie Whitehead, who provided him with an alibi, came forward to detectives.
I want to say something. If I tell you the truth, can you 100% ensure my safety? I'm not talking about Willie. I'm talking about to Antoine.
Ashley Johnson tells officers that she was not being truthful the last time she spoke with them.
He said, Willie was here, right? And I just looked at him. He said, if go down, you better tell them people Willie was here. He said, because if you don't, I'm going to kill you. Or I'm going to get some of my scraps to kill you.
Okay.
She tells the detectives that she was threatened by Antoine to provide her boyfriend with an alibi, and that her boyfriend was actually not with her that night. The ballistic report on Antoine's gun came in. It was determined that the gun was the same one that fired all 3 rounds in the Hustle Mart. All 4 suspects were charged with multiple counts of robbery and murder. Prosecutors now had a strong case and were pushing for the death penalty. Xavier Shamble and Raekwon Blunt both pleaded guilty to armed robbery and 3 counts of second-degree murder. Shamble was sentenced to 13 to 17 years, and Blunt was sentenced to 9 to 12. Willie Whitehead fought his case and lost. He was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and was handed 3 life sentences. Antoine Anthony also fought his case and was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and robbery with a dangerous weapon. He was sentenced to death and is currently on death row going through his appeals.